All right, good morning. This is going to be the beanbag round annual update. We're going to be talking about your less lethal shotgun and the rounds and our policy, and you can find this in Power DMS. All right, this general order, use of force, the active resistance, a subject's use of physical evasive movements directed towards an officer, such as bracing, tensing, pushing, or pulling to prevent the officer from establishing control over the subject. That's active resistance. We got aggressive resistance, a subject's attacking movements toward an officer that may cause injury but are not likely to cause death or great bodily harm to the officer or others. And then you have passive resistance, a subject's verbal and or physical refusal to comply with an officer's lawful direction, causing the officer to use physical techniques to establish control. That's just us letting you know the difference between the types of resistance and what use of force we're going to use. All right, less lethal weapon. Weapons designed for use by law enforcement and corrections officers that are not fundamentally designed to cause death or great bodily harm, such as a specialty impact munitions, projectiles used that are designed to stun, temporarily incapacitate, or cause temporary discomfort to a person without penetrating the person's body, expandable or straight batons, impact rounds, impact round launchers, chemical agent sprays. Those are all different types of less lethal weapons. All right, less lethal munitions is defined as Florida Statute 776.06 to mean a projectile that is designed to stun, temporarily incapacitate, or cause temporary discomfort to a person without penetrating the person's body. These devices are not fundamentally designed to cause death or great bodily harm, and therefore may fall under less lethal force under the officer's response options portion of this policy, depending on the intent and application by the member. Just because we have it doesn't mean that just because you use this less lethal, whether it's your less lethal round in your shotgun or your taser or OC spray, doesn't mean we're actually going to be effective. It may not be effective. All right, we're going to get into the approval to carry. Deputies may carry and use the agency-approved less lethal weapons if certified in their use whenever on duty. When utilizing less lethal weapons, personnel shall use only that degree of force that is necessary to accomplish their lawful duty. Deputies who are certified in their use may also use said weapons off duty when necessary and acting in a law enforcement capacity. Prior to the carrying and or use of any less lethal weapon, proficiency must be shown, which means we will take you out. You will have to use the weapon, load it properly, so on and so forth. Authorized use, less lethal munitions. Less lethal munitions will be used with the intent to temporarily incapacitate and not to cause serious injury. They provide a method for controlling subjects where intermediate weapons are ineffective. Okay, approval for deployment. Less lethal munitions may be used to gain control of a subject, demonstrating aggressive or aggravated aggressive physical resistance. These munitions will be considered an incapacitating force. Only members who have received training in shotgun deployment are authorized to use less lethal munitions. A member with such training showing proficiency may act utilizing this method only after supervisor approval is given. Less lethal munitions will be delivered with an approved munitions launcher or a designated shotgun for beanbags. Some of your shotguns will have the orange tape. It may have an orange stock, or it may not have any of that. And these are your beanbag rounds. It'll come in this box if you're issued them. It's a AeroSoc less lethal beanbag for your 12 gauge. Let's see. It says in emergency situations where a designated shotgun is not readily available, one may utilize their agency-issued shotgun. In both instances, the deputy will unload the weapons in the company of another deputy to verify the weapon is empty. That's like the most important part, is that you have another another deputy there inspecting you loading the actual less lethal rounds. Once the weapon has been cleared from the live rounds, the deputy will load the issued beanbag rounds, like I just said, into the shotgun. This will also be verified by the second deputy before the weapon can be used for deployment. All right, this is the warning for deployment. Members using less lethal munitions will give other members a verbal warning stating the type of munitions being used prior to deployment, when feasible, to avoid sympathetic fire by other officers. Lethal force as a backup should always be in place prior to the deployment of impact munitions. Targeted areas of the body should be in compliance with training. Areas such as the head and throat should be avoided unless deadly force is the intent. Require notification of use. The sheriff will be notified through the chain of command when less lethal munitions are deployed. Each deployment will be documented on a use of force report. The threat to use less lethal munitions or taser does not require a use of force report. These are your target areas, green areas. These are highly recommended placement for blunt trauma causing compliance. Yellow areas, here in your shoulders and your knees, it says due to joints, shoulders, knees, it is not highly recommended due to injuries that may occur from blunt force unless the resistance level requires immediate compliance. And then the red areas, you got your head, chest, crotch area, the groin area, only when lethal force is authorized. All right, as far as using the less lethal shotgun or a less lethal weapon in general, always make sure you have a cover officer with the lethal option. If you don't, I would not use just the less lethal only.